Hello, welcome to a broadcast produced by Friends of Terry Virgil. I'm Terry Virgil, your host. Today's episode is the book I just finished. The title of the book is Freedom and Liberty. And in this book we talk about freedom and liberty. We talk about it a lot. And we also hear about freedom and liberty in so-called run for president of the United States of America. In all truth and reality, I haven't heard one word about freedom and liberty at all from any of the five candidates. And that would be one thing that President Lincoln and the founders of the Republican Party would go up in arms, and they would spin over in their graves because they don't hear anything about freedom and liberty. I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to speak to you about truth. Matter of fact, integrity is one of the key factors about freedom and liberty. Matter of fact, it's the only key factor. Because in order to have freedom and liberty, you got to have integrity, honesty, and truth. So let's talk about a little bit that comes from my book. In chapter 1, I talk about the founder of freedom and liberty, where freedom and liberty comes from, and what freedom and liberty is all about, and exactly what choice is all about, and the right to choose. That is correct. I talk about this throughout the whole book, actually, but in chapter 1. Chapter 2, we talk about, and I will say this much, to be debt-free in order to have freedom and liberty. That is on the secular point of view as well as a biblical worldview. Yes, I do have a biblical worldview. I hold it dearly, and I will always hold true to it. I don't care about what the liberals have to say about it. I don't care what any occult groups, such as, for example, the Muslims have to say about this, because that's all it is an occult group that wants to kill Christians and Jews mainly. Well, let's put this in a little bit more perspective. In chapter 3, I talk about the founding fathers. I also talk about one other thing too that makes freedom and liberty a very good idea, and what freedom and liberty is all about. It's called entrepreneurship, or being an entrepreneur. With all that said, we're going to go I even get into education, about public education, to show how evil public education is and how public education does not teach freedom and liberty. I've seen this throughout time. I was in a public school, in a public school system where freedom and liberty, believe it or not, were not taught, and freedom and liberty was also considered a real bad myth and boo-boo. I've heard these words that freedom and liberty does not exist by the liberals where I went to high school at. Kind of made me a little angry there. Kind of made me a little bit upset. Here I am going into the United States Marine Corps, wanting to defend liberty and freedom. And all I got from the liberals and the Democrats put together was the communistic idea that freedom and liberty does not exist. Believe me, people, freedom and liberty is something that we can achieve again in this nation. And the reason why I say again is because in 1776 we declared our independence. We declared our freedom and liberty against a huge tyrant back then called King George. And the English people that followed King George. We could also look at a couple other things too when we talk about my book. And I encourage people to go purchase my book. Matter of fact, in Kindle, it's $4, or it's less than $4. For less than $4, you could get 9 chapters of freedom and liberty, and exactly what freedom and liberty is all about. If you buy it on the bookshelf and have a copy and send me the copy, I'll return it, autograph it, and send it right back to you and say, amen, brother, or even amen, sister. And here's the other thing, too, about freedom and liberty that we don't hear about. I've been listening and monitoring the presidential candidates since the presidential candidates were all out there and announcing that they are running and why they are running. I hear from the Republican Party nothing about freedom and liberty, with one exception. And I'm not going to promote him because I'm not a Republican. I won't promote a Republican at all, even in my own household. Ted Cruz has the idea of a flat and fair tax of 10% across the board. Get rid of the IRS. Well, in all honesty and all truth, the get rid of the IRS is 103 years too late. The reason why I could say 103 years too late, because in 1913, underneath the very liberal / Democrat President Woodrow Wilson, income tax was born, a federal income tax. A direct violation of U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 1 through 20. A direct violation of U.S. Constitution, Amendment 10, whereby the states have the right. You see, my point here is freedom and liberty is something that most people take for granted. But it can be taken away by the most liberal idiots out there in the world, like Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. We could see this in Obama and his idiot ideas. We could see it throughout the whole world. We could see it where the communists hate this idea. Look at Kim Jong-un of North Korea. He hates freedom and liberty. Look at the Castro brothers down in Cuba. They hate freedom and liberty. And yes, we got a knucklehead that claims to be the president of the United States and the head of the free world, who hates freedom and liberty just as much as they do. His name is Mr. Obama. I will not, and I shall not, say anything else other than point blank, he is a member of this group that also hates freedom and liberty. He is a member of the occult group and an organization called the Islamic State of Muslim. And he is also a communist sympathizer, actually, because I can't call him a real communist because I have some proof, but the proof is there, but the Democrats do not, and liberals do not want to reveal this truth. So let's going to leave that alone. It's called name calling and everything else. Let's just let it go at that. But anyways, Hillary Clinton, the evil witch of the Liberal Democratic Party / Communist Party of America. She hates freedom and liberty. And everybody can see it. She says, well, we need free college education in order to boost the economy. I happen to know a lot about the economy. I do a lot of investigation. I'm not I am a true expert, but not a real expert on it. I understand that we need checks and balances. I understand other factors too, like taxation. We need to get on with this idea and saying, okay, if we need taxation in order to run the government, I would say a flat and fair tax of 10% is the right idea. That's an idea that, believe it or not, I thought of having when I was running for governor in the great state of Wisconsin, with one exception. I thought that the taxation should have been a flat and fair tax of 9.5% across the board. I think the state of Wisconsin could live with that idea, and I think that would have gave us a surplus. I'm very sure of that. So, yeah, it's a 0.5% off, but I look at it this way, at least it was a start. I would have gradually did it, of course, brought it in, started out at 8.3%, and then increased it up to 9.5. I think 9.5 should be the ending cutoff. But anyways, to tell you the truth, I think we ought to get rid of all federal taxation of the people, the true citizens of the United States of America, the ones that are fighting for freedom and liberty. That's also mentioned in my new book, by the way, people. I will defend that book tooth and nail. I won't back down from one word that I wrote in it. And I will tell you the truth, I was never politically correct in that book. There's no reason to be a communist / Democrat / liberal and even / socialist. The reason why I haven't attacked Bernie Sanders yet, because he is a socialist / Democrat / liberal. And yes, we can even put the / communist there. Because any time you vote and decide to be and vote as a Democrat, you're voting as a communist sympathizer, or a fool, as I like to say it. Because you're foolish enough to buy into the idea that we need to raise taxes in order to fix the economy. You don't. That's bullshit. What you need to do is have and allow entrepreneurs. You need to have taxations like a flat and fair tax, and go from there. Now I understand that there's 3 other people in this race for president of the United States of America, and they happen to be Republicans. 2 of them are fighting over their wives, slapping mud at each other. One of them, I understand, isn't slapping mud and decides to bring out the issues. And right now, if I were a Republican, and I'm not, I would start taking those kids out to the schoolhouse playground and start saying, beat each other up, please. I'd like to see that happen. Because that's all you're doing is acting like 2 imbeciles. Actually, you could classify the other one as the referee. He's in the middle. And that's Governor Kasich. Donald Trump, I like as an individual. I like what he's bringing out into the campaign. But I'm sorry, people, I need to have issues brought out. And those who support Mr. Trump, I actually admire what you're supporting. It's kind of interesting. But I will stick with my Libertarian Party. I will stick with the Libertarian candidates 100%. When it comes time to vote, April 5th, I will vote as a Libertarian. If there's no Libertarian on the ballot, I will choose the lesser of the 2 evils. In this case, 3 evils. It's either Larry, Curly, or Moe. One of the 3. And that's it. And yes, I'm going to say the 3 Stooges. The reason why I say Governor Kasich is among them, and he's bringing out the issues, which is the right thing, but President Abraham Lincoln would be spinning in his grave at what he's seeing with his Republican Party. And so would the founders of the Republican Party be spinning in their graves. So, as far as I could say it and see it, no integrity whatsoever among the 5 candidates. None. N-O. They don't believe in freedom and liberty. Once I hear the words freedom and liberty, then you got my ears perking up to listen to what you have to say. That's why in my mind, and my mind is made up, and if I ever had an interview, and I'd like to have an interview with all 5 candidates, but it's not going to happen. Here's why. Hillary Clinton won't